Now, veganism is unhealthy. Here is why. You see, red meat has a main source of iron. There are two types of iron, heme iron and non-heme iron. Heme iron is found in stuff such as red meat. Heme iron, you absorb 30% of it, I believe, whereas non-heme iron, which is found in vegetables and eggs, you only absorb 10 to 15% and in rare cases 20%. That is not a sufficient. Non-heme iron is not sufficient by itself. You need a balance of non-heme iron and heme iron, because if you don't, you will get iron deficiency, and increasing the chance of that is if you're a vegan and not just a vegetarian, which means that I think you don't eat anything to do with animals, which means you wouldn't eat eggs and cheese and stuff, which means you don't get a lot of other things too, and you don't even really, and even some non-heme iron you don't get. So vegetables are your only source of iron, and another insufficient source anyway. And iron deficiency may progress to anemia, which means that you produce less red blood cells, which can lower your oxygen count, or thrombocytosis, or elevated platelet levels, which can in turn cause blood clots. Because if you have too many, what are they called? Platelets, then then we have a higher chance of blood clots, because the more of those things there are, because I think that's sort of I don't fully understand it, but the more of these things there are, the more chance you have of getting a blood clot, because the more there are, the less room there is for everything else, and it can block where the blood is going. Therefore, you have more chance of getting a blood clot. Also, if you eat too many vegetables, which will be basically your only diet if you're a vegan, vegetables contain fire and fructose, which can produce excess gas in the intestine. Therefore, you are more likely to get serious stuff such as constipation, although first it will start with diarrhea and such. Now, the blood vessel blockage that I mentioned earlier in anemia, no, not anemia, it's elevated platelet levels, can cause strokes, and I should know because I've had a stroke before. Although it was when I was a baby, so maybe that point is not valid. Also, another argument is that you think that it's immoral to be a meat eater or an omnivore. However, how come you let the animals do it to each other? I say, there is a food chain which allows animals to eat other animals, not factoring in the fact that we are actually animals too. Well, actually, yes. And seeing we are animals too, we deserve to get a cut of the food chain. Right? Spiders eat flies, something else eats spiders, horses eat grass, which is actually living. Vegetables are actually living also. So you're being hypocrites, aren't you? Although it's a different kind of living. However, it's still living nonetheless. And snakes can eat people. Snakes also eat lots of other things such as small animals and stuff. And there are certain birds which can eat really big things compared to them, such as squirrels. Not entirely sure if that's true, but there are a lot of things in the food chain. A lot of species. Tigers obviously eat small animals. They They just eat whatever, although they usually avoid eating humans. But my point here, in this section of the argument, is that we should get a cut of the food chain too, and it's not immoral if the animals do it anyway. So it's a bit hypocritical of you to say that it's immoral of us to take the life of an animal when other animals do it all the time. In conclusion, it's hypocritical to say that, and also, veganism is not very healthy for you. My sources are Wikipedia, so correct my errors if any, and summertomato.com, and a lot of other things. Also, sorry, I forgot to mention this, but there are a lot of disturbing people on Yahoo and unleashed.org.au who claim that eating meat should be outlawed. Now that's a bit fascist, isn't it? You're trying to make us conform to your ideal, which has no substantial evidence backing up its claim, and correct me if I'm wrong on this. Come on, teach me about veganism. Prove me wrong. Although at the moment I stand where I stand, and with these types of things, you're drawing us in to your hypocritical, nonsensical agenda to do with morality, and I don't like it. I will respect your choice if you're a vegan, but beware of the consequences and drawbacks. And don't force your opinion on others. Thank you and good night.